Chief Hale, can you confirm the rumors about the warehouse explosion?
We are unable to comment at this time. Thank you.
The city knew Max before it knew most of its officers. Morning traffic slowed when the black K9 unit SUV rolled past. Kids pointed, store owners nodded. Criminals noticed and adjusted their plans. Max, a full-grown German shepherd with alert amber eyes and a scar along his left ear, sat tall in the back seat, calm and focused, like he was already working the next case. Officer Jake Mercer glanced at him from the driver's seat and smirked. "You ready for another quiet day, hero?" Max's ears twitched at the sound of Jake's voice. Quiet days were rare. The elite K9 unit hadn't earned its reputation by accident, and Max hadn't earned his medals by luck. He was trained for explosives, tracking, and patrol. But more than that, he understood things. Jake had learned long ago to trust Max's instincts, even when they didn't make sense on paper. They pulled into the police station parking lot just before noon. The sun reflected off rows of patrol cars and the concrete building that had become their second home. Officers waved as Jake opened the back door. Max hopped out, boots hitting pavement with quiet authority. Inside, the mood was relaxed. Phones rang, coffee brewed. Someone laughed near the bullpen. Then the alarm sounded. A sharp, jarring tone cut through the building. Dispatchers froze. Officers looked up from desks. A voice came over the intercom, tight, controlled, but unmistakably tense. "Attention all units. Possible bomb threat reported. Evacuate immediately." Jake's hand was already on Max's harness. They moved fast. Outside, the parking lot had been cleared in seconds. Red and blue lights painted the concrete. Max lowered his head and began to work, nose sweeping the ground with practiced precision. Jake followed silently, heart pounding but face calm. This was their world. Max stopped. He sat. Then he stared. Jake swallowed. "You got something, buddy?" Max stood and took 3 deliberate steps toward a dark sedan parked near the far fence. His body stiffened. The air around them felt heavier, charged. Jake raised his hand. "Bomb squad, right here." Minutes stretched like hours as specialists moved in. When they opened the trunk, the device confirmed everyone's fear. Compact, expertly wired, remote-controlled. Not the work of an amateur. This was sophisticated, personal. The bomb squad neutralized it safely, but relief didn't come. Not for Jake, not for Max, because Max wasn't done. As officers began securing the area, Max pulled forward, nose lifted, catching something faint on the breeze. His tail lowered, his pace changed. Jake felt it instantly. "You've got a trail." Max led him past the lot, through a service gate and into the narrow maze of alleys behind the station, away from safety, away from answers, towards something darker. And whatever it was, Max recognized it. As Max disappeared into the shadowed alley, Jake realized this wasn't just a threat, it was the beginning of a hunt. And the target might be closer than anyone imagined.
The alley smelled like rust, damp concrete, and old trash, but Max filtered it all out. His nose worked with quiet urgency, pulling him forward as if an invisible thread were tied to his chest. Jake tightened his grip on the leash. "Easy, buddy. I'm with you." They moved deeper into the maze behind the station. The city's noise faded into a distant hum. Sunlight thinned between fire escapes and brick walls, replaced by shadow and echoes of dripping water. This wasn't a place civilians wandered into by accident. Max stopped at a chain-link fence. He sniffed low, then jumped, paws scraping metal before landing on the other side. Jake cursed under his breath and followed, heart thudding. On the other side stood an abandoned warehouse, 3 stories of broken windows, faded warning signs, and a heavy steel door hanging slightly open. Max let out a low whine. Jake radioed it in. K-9 unit to command. We have a possible point of origin. Requesting backup. The door creaked as Jake pushed it open. Dust filled the air. The warehouse was cavernous and silent, except for the faint flutter of a tarp moving in the breeze. Max went to work immediately. He circled the space, nose skimming the floor, then darted toward a makeshift table near the back. On it lay scraps of wire, empty solvent cans, latex gloves, and folded papers. Jake's pulse spiked. He stepped closer and unfolded the papers. Blueprints. Not just any blueprints, detailed layouts of the police station, entrances, camera angles, patrol shift timings, even the K-9 kennel area was marked. Son of a... Jake stopped himself. Max froze beside the table, nose pressed to the edge, his ears tilted forward. Something about this scent held his attention longer than usual. He sniffed again, and again. Jake crouched. "What is it, Max?" The dog tilted his head slightly, confused not by the trail, but what it meant. This smell wasn't new. It wasn't threatening in the way criminals usually were. It was familiar. Jake noticed it then, too, something faint but distinctive in the air, a smooth, woody cologne, barely masking the harsh bite of gun-cleaning solvent. It didn't belong in a warehouse, yet it felt oddly official. Footsteps echoed outside. Backup arrived quickly, but the result was the same. No suspect, no cameras nearby. Whoever had been here knew how to disappear. The warehouse was sealed. Evidence was bagged. Intelligence units took over. The city breathed again as news broke that the bomb had been defused. Max sat quietly in the back of the SUV as they drove away, eyes fixed on the window reflection. Jake glanced at him through the mirror. "You did good today, Max. You always do." But Max didn't relax. That scent, warm sandalwood mixed with oil and steel, clung to his memory. It wasn't a stranger's smell. It was one he encountered almost every day. A smell paired with a hand that scratched behind his ears. A voice that praised him in passing. Max didn't understand betrayal, but his instincts were starting to. As the warehouse faded behind them, one question hung heavy in the air. What if the danger wasn't outside the department, but walking its halls?
The press conference was supposed to be a victory lap. 2 days after the bomb threat, the city gathered in front of police headquarters. News vans lined the street. Cameras were mounted on tripods. Microphones clustered around the podium bearing the department seal. The mayor stood nearby, smiling for the cameras, while uniformed officers formed a neat backdrop of blue and gold. Max sat at Jake's side, wearing his formal canine harness. The metal on it gleamed in the afternoon sun. He'd been groomed, brushed, and praised all morning. Everyone wanted a picture with the hero dog. Jake rested a hand on Max's back, steady and familiar. "Almost done," he murmured. "Then we're out of here." Max wasn't listening. The air was crowded with smells: sweat, perfume, coffee, paper, electricity. Normally, Max filtered it all out without effort, but today, one scent cut through the noise like a blade. Sandalwood. His head lifted, his ears went forward, his body stiffened. Deputy Chief Hale stood just off the stage, crisp uniform pressed to perfection, silver hair neatly combed. He looked every inch the leader the city trusted. Max stared. Jake felt the tension ripple through the leash. "Max?" The dog stood up. A few reporters chuckled, thinking it was part of the show. Jake tried to guide him back into position, but Max resisted, pulling forward, not in panic, not in fear, but with certainty. "Easy, boy," Jake whispered, suddenly uneasy. Hale stepped toward the podium as the chief finished speaking. Applause rippled through the crowd. Hale raised a hand, basking in it, and Max lunged. Gasps echoed as the German shepherd broke from Jake's side, crossing the small distance between them in seconds. Officers reached for weapons, then froze when Max didn't bark or attack. He sat, perfectly still, eyes locked on Hale.
The world seemed to pause. Jake's heart hammered. He knew that's it. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't stress. It was an alert. "Max," Jake said slowly, carefully, "what are you doing?" Max didn't move. Hale's smile faltered. "Well," he chuckled awkwardly, "looks like your dog wants some attention." But his voice lacked conviction. Jake stepped closer. The scent hit him now too, subtle but undeniable. Sandalwood, solvent, the same combination from the warehouse. Jake looked from Max to Hale. "No," Jake said quietly. Hale's eyes flicked around, calculating. Officers shifted. Hands hovered near cuffs. "This is ridiculous," snapped Hale. "Control your dog, officer." Max growled, low, restrained, a warning he rarely gave. Silence fell over the crowd. Jake swallowed hard. "Deputy Chief, where were you the day of the bomb threat?" Hale's face drained of color. As cameras rolled and the city watched live, Jake realized the truth was about to explode, far more devastating than any bomb ever could. For a moment, no one moved. The breeze carried the distant sound of traffic, a siren somewhere far off, and the soft whir of camera lenses zooming in. Max remained seated, perfectly still, his gaze locked on Deputy Chief Richard Hale like a spotlight that couldn't be turned off. Jake felt every eye on him. "Jake, stand down," one of the captains muttered from behind him. "This isn't the place." Jake didn't look away from Hale. "With respect, sir, this is exactly the place." Hale forced a laugh that rang hollow. "You're letting a dog embarrass this department in front of the city." Jake finally reached for Max's harness, not to pull him back, but to steady himself. "Max alerted on the bomb," he said, voice calm but carrying. "He tracked the scent to the warehouse, and he's alerting again, same scent." A murmur rolled through the crowd. Hale's jaw tightened. "Circumstantial. Dogs make mistakes." Max didn't. The dog leaned forward slightly and sniffed the air again, his nose inches from Hale's polished shoes. The growl in his chest vibrated like a warning bell. Jake continued, louder now. "Sandalwood cologne, gun cleaning solvent. That exact combination was on the bomb materials." Hale's eyes darted to the cameras. "This is outrageous," Hale snapped. "You think I'd risk my career for some stunt?" Jake's voice dropped. "Not a stunt, a strategy." The words hung heavy. Jake took a step closer. "You create a crisis, let the department scramble, then you guide the investigation just enough to look indispensable, a public hero, perfect timing for a sheriff campaign." Hale's composure cracked. "You have no proof?" Jake nodded toward Max. "I do." An officer from Internal Affairs stepped forward. "Deputy Chief Hale, we're going to ask you to come with us." Hale took a step back, then another. "I've given this department everything. I am this department." Max stood. The crowd erupted as officers moved in. Hale's shoulders sagged as cuffs clicked shut. His eyes met Jake's, angry, betrayed, desperate. "He never misses, does he?" Hale muttered. Jake looked down at Max. "No, he doesn't." The press conference dissolved into chaos. Live feeds cut. Phones rang non-stop inside the building. And just like that, the story changed from hero dog to internal betrayal. Later that night, Jake sat alone with Max in the quiet kennel area. He rested his forehead against the dog's. "You trusted him," Jake said softly. "So did I." Max licked his hand once, simple and honest. As the department began reckoning with the betrayal within, one final moment remained. Proof that loyalty, once tested, shines brighter than any badge. The rain came down steady and light, the kind that washed dust from the streets without making a scene. Inside the main hall of the police department, officers stood in clean dress uniforms, their voices low, respectful. The department seal hung behind the podium, polished and newly restored. This time, there were no reporters shouting questions. This time, the applause was real. Jake stood off to the side, adjusting Max's ceremonial harness. The German Shepherd looked calmer than he had in days, though his eyes still tracked everything. Instinct never turned off. A silver medal rested against his chest, engraved with a simple phrase, "For exceptional bravery and service." The chief cleared his throat. "What happened this week tested this department," he said. "Not just our skills, but our integrity." A few officers shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew whose office now sat empty. Justice didn't come from politics. It didn't come from ambition. It came from loyalty, from a dog who trusted his training and a handler who trusted his partner. Jake felt his chest tighten. "Max," the chief said, smiling softly, "step forward." Jake gave a quiet command. Max walked to the center of the room and sat, posture perfect. The chief placed the medal around his neck. For a brief second, Max's tail thumped once against the floor. Laughter rippled through the room. Jake stepped forward next. "This badge," the chief said, gesturing toward Jake's chest, "stands for something because of people like you." Jake nodded, unable to speak. After the ceremony, the hall slowly emptied. Officers shook Jake's hand, knelt to scratch Max's ears, whispered thanks. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement like a fresh start. Jake and Max paused near the station doors. Jake looked down at his partner. "Funny, isn't it? All that training, all that tech, and it came down to a nose and a little trust." Max looked up at him, steady and sure. Inside the building, workers quietly removed Hale's nameplate from the wall. The badge he once wore was locked away as evidence, no longer a symbol of honor, but of betrayal. Jake clipped the leash on. "Ready to go home?" Max stood, metal catching the light, and walked forward, confident, unburdened. As they stepped into the night, the police badge above the building gleamed above them, still meaningful, still worth protecting. Because in the end, justice hadn't needed speeches or headlines. It had been right under their noses all along.